This is a Realpolitik confidential flash report. US military aid to the Ukraine resumes after a sudden pause. In a critical week for Ukraine's war effort, US military aid shipments have officially resumed just days after a sudden and unexplained pause shook Allied confidence. On or around July 1st, the US Department of Defense temporarily halted arms deliveries including Patriot missiles, 8,500 artillery shells, 250 GMLRS rockets and 142 Hellfire missiles. The reason? An urgent stockpile review by the Pentagon raising alarms in Kiev as Russian drones and missiles attacks escalated. On July 11, President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed that defense support continues and that Ukraine has received strong political signals from Washington and European allies. President Donald Trump also made headlines stating that NATO allies would purchase US weapons and reroute them to Ukraine. Keeping American supplies flowing without direct involvement, the new workaround is meant to preserve US readiness while keeping Kiev armed in the context of an emerging threat in the South China Sea. The NATO to Ukraine delivery model, reportedly crafted with the support of Keith Kellogg and the former Secretary Jens Stoltenberg, will allow countries like Germany and Norway to transfer newly purchased Patriot systems and long-range munitions. This shifts the political optics. Ukraine will receive aid, but American stockpiles are shielded and European partners bear more logistical weight. Over 1,300 Russian drones have struck the Ukraine in the last week alone. Ukraine's air defense relies heavily on US and NATO resupply. Meanwhile, Ukrainian diplomats confirmed an upcoming visit by US Special Envoy Keith Kellogg, who will coordinate the new multilateral mechanism for weapons procurement and delivery. What's changing? Well, deliveries resume but through indirect channels, and stockpile protection signals a longer-term shift, preparing not just for Ukraine but for contingencies in Asia and the Indo-Pacific area. What remains unclear at this point is whether a future US administration, regardless of party, will keep this hybrid support model sustainable. Ukraine's war machine is breathing again, but behind the restored shipments lies a deeper question. How long can the West keep this up without burning through its own arsenal? This has been a Realpolitik confidential flash report. Please remember to give us a like, a share and a subscribe and help us grow this channel in order to help more and more people to get to our content. This has been a Realpolitik confidential flash report. Stay safe out there. This is a Realpolitik confidential flash report. US military aid to the Ukraine resumes after a sudden pause. In a critical week for Ukraine's war effort, US military aid shipments have officially resumed just days after a sudden and unexplained pause shook Allied confidence. On or around July 1st,